Welcome back to my YouTube channel. This is Robert Ralph, freelance writer and content creator. So for my first video today, I really wanted to talk about the changes that we have made to New Writers Welcome, one of my publications, and the reasons behind those changes. Since we launched New Writers Welcome, which I think was back in August or September of 2021, we've seen some minor changes to the publication. I guess this is probably the most significant step we have taken, which is now January 2023. And the reason for making the changes, I guess, really is to take the publication to the next level. Of course, when you start a publication, it's all about trying to get writers on board, trying to establish yourself as a community. And it can be very, very hard to do that. I know that a lot of publication owners, when they first start, really struggle to get writers and followers. Why? Simply, everybody wants to be in big publications, big platforms. Clearly, if you write for a publication and it has, 100,000 followers, there's a good chance that you might get more exposure compared to, What Is Love For You, as an example, which is my other publication that's got 1,100 followers. So a writer wants to get as much exposure as they can. There's pros and cons to that, but I guess that's the reason that people like to get into large publications. When I started New Writers Welcome, I was the same as every other owner out there, working really hard to try and build that community base. I've been very fortunate that I've been able to do that. And as it stands, I'll put the exact figure on the screen, but I think we're something in the region of 17,500 followers. It's there or thereabouts at the moment, which is really good. For those people that follow me personally, you'll know that my aim during 2023 was to get the publication up to 25,000 followers. I may have put a major dent in that with one of my changes, but let's go into some of the changes, what we've done and the reasons why. Let's make no bones about it. The easiest way to get people to write for your publication, which in itself will enhance followers, is to simply ask them to request to become a writer. This is the form that I took, and it proved to be very successful. You simply had to go to Write For Us, which was a section on the publication, and simply quote, I'd like to write for New Writers Welcome. It was as basic and simple as that. I would generally, every 24 hours, accept an influx of writers, add them to the list, and they were free to just go ahead and submit draft articles to us. And there's a very good chance, because the publication was aimed at new writers, even if their work wasn't exactly top notch, it would still be published with a little bit of feedback. And it was a great way to build a community, and it proved to be very successful. And now we're just at the stage where we need to make some slight changes to increase the professionalism to the type of content, and 3, probably is going to help the writer a little bit more, give some more constructive feedback, and some of those articles that would have got through previously will now be rejected. Feedback will be given, and I hope that will encourage the writer to improve their skills and come back and resubmit. to get a story or an article that is much, much better and has a better chance to get views and reads. So the application process now, I will link the page that you'll need to read if you want to become a writer for New Writers Welcome. I'll link that in the description below. But effectively, once you've read that page, there's an application form at the bottom where you give a few details such as your medium name, of course, your email address, why you want to write for us, and then you can send a draft link in to us. That is a bit more of a lengthy process. It'll probably take the average person maybe 3 or 4 minutes to fill out and submit. And I like the fact that the writer has got to do a little bit of work, because it was just so easy to say I'd like to become a writer and just forget about it then until you were accepted. Now, if you really want to become a writer, there's a little bit of work for you to do, and of course submit an article. I would say on average I was getting anything from 5 to maybe 20 applications every single day for people wanting to write for the publication. The application form has gone live and it's around 20 hours since it went live, and so far I've had 1 application. That for me is really good. What it means is, let's say on a Sunday, which it is today, I would normally get maybe 15 applications, and today I've only got 1. Great. That means probably the 14 other applications weren't really that interested in writing for the publication, or perhaps they couldn't be bothered to fill in the new application form. That's great, because that's not the type of writer I want anyway. I want the type of writer that's committed to the publication, really wants to write for us, and understands the topics that we're trying to push forward. Interestingly enough, of course, I'm not going to mention the writer who applied today, but the draft article that he sent is actually not on topic. So what I would say is, if you want to become a writer, not just for our publication, but for any publication, please look at their topics. There is no point sending a draft copy of an article you've written if it's not part of their niche, not part of the topics that they cover, because it will simply get rejected. So again, another part of the process, I guess, is to make sure that these writers are actually reading what you're writing. Again, for me, if you can't be bothered to read the application process and read the submission rules, I can't be bothered to publish your work. It's as simple as that. You know, it's like in employment. If you're only giving 50% of your effort to your employer, is it okay if your employer pays you 50% of your wages for that week? The answer is you'd probably say no. Well, if that's the case, please put in 100% effort to get 100% reward. I think it's quite basic. I understand that not everyone has my philosophy. I think I can be unique in certain circumstances, but give your all and you'll see the reward for that. We're not asking a lot. We're simply saying, please read our submission rules, please fill in an application form, and then we will either accept you as a writer, we'll give you some feedback as to why you might need to reapply, or of course, if we feel that you're not suitable, we'll start again. We'll reject your application. My goal is not to reject lots of people. My goal is to work with a writer until they've got a story that's really a good fit for our publication, and so they understand the formatting rules that we particularly have. The formatting rules are quite simple. We ask you to write a title in less than 2 lines. We ask you to write a subtitle less than 2 lines. And we ask you to add a picture that is credited. We also like to have a call to action or a conclusion at the bottom of your article. And we ask you to stick on topic of one of the topics that we cover as a publication. The only other thing is to add the tag New Writers Welcome. So it's a pretty basic list. We're not asking for war and peace. We're not asking you to be a top rate, a journalist or a fantastic author of, 10 books that you've sold on Amazon or whatever it may be. Of course, we like great punctuation. We like your story to flow. I'm a big advocate for Grammarly. There's other tools out there that you can use. As a dyslexic person, I rely on Grammarly quite a lot. I know I'm not the best writer out there, and I know I need some help, and I admit to that, and I use the tools around me to help me. So, we do have some other submission rules, things like no plagiarism, don't use AI content, etc., etc. I'm not going to list them all here, but have a look in the description below, and there's plenty of information for you to understand what we're looking for and how you can become a successful writer on our publication. As an editing team, we did look at the topics that we cover, and we had a lot of debate. There was some writers that threw in some suggestions, such as history and travel, and writing about your writing experience so far, and so on and so forth. And we did debate this for a little while, but the general consensus is that we've got a great list of topics, and there was no real need to change them. So we've just stuck with the topics for now. They will always be under review. I think every 6 months or so we'll review the topics and see what topics are doing well, what are not doing so well. I will admit that I had every intention to cut poetry out. Some of my editors were quite strong in saying, no, Rob, don't cut poetry out, we love poetry. So poetry stays, which is good news for those writers that love poetry, as I do. I do like poetry. I'm just a little bit frustrated that Medium, because of the way the algorithm works, you don't get a lot of money from poetry. So when I tend to write it, I'm doing it out of the love of writing it rather than thinking it's going to make me some money. I've also slightly changed the layout. I've put back in some trending stories. So trending stories are not selected by us editors. They're selected by Medium of the stories of that particular week that's doing very, very well in terms of reads and views. So I thought that was nice to have, because when you go onto the platform, it must be quite a buzz to see that your story is trending. And of course, there's every chance that if there's a couple of trending stories at the top, then people might click on that, and it's a good way for those particular writers to possibly earn some more money. So I thought it was nice to put that in. We've gone from publishing 25 articles a day down to 20. I really want to try and concentrate more on quality than quantity. And when I say a maximum of 25, it does mean a maximum of 20. It does mean a maximum of 20. We might only publish 3 or 4 articles that day. We're not gonna hit our quota just for the sake of it. We're really concentrating on making sure that we improve what we're giving our readers. And if that means that we're only publishing 5 or 6, then we'll only publish 5 or 6. But what it does mean, hopefully, is those 5 or 6 will get much more reads and views, and that people will be rewarded for the quality content that they're producing. Of course, the other thing is the boost button that Coach Tony announced. We haven't got it yet. I've got no official announcement, but through conversations that I've had, it seems like the boost button will come into play probably around April time. And basically the boost button is, I guess, the new curation or distribution. Publications will have the opportunity to boost a particular article to the followers of the publication. And I think that's a really, really good tool, providing it's not abused. and myself and the other editors will discuss how we're going to be using that, and we'll probably run a trial for the first week or so just to see what sort of impact it has when we get that facility. So very much looking forward to the boost button. It's going to be a couple of months off still yet. I'm sure Coach Tony will select some publications to trial that out with and to see how it works for them, and I'm sure you want that sort of feedback. You never know, we might be one of those lucky publications to get that boost button early, and we'll keep you updated if that is the case. Okay, well that's it for today. I just wanted to cover some of the topics of what we've done to change New Writers Welcome and the reasons behind them. I hope you enjoyed the content. If you do, give me a thumbs up, give me a like. Hit the little bell button. It's always nice to get a notification when a new video drops. That's it for today. So thank you very much. This is Robert Ralph, freelance writer and content creator.